So under functional library, we are going to see what functional library means, how to create a library, what is library, how to create a library, how to call the library functions in QTP. These three we are going to see under VBScripting functional library. So what is library? Library is nothing but collection of functions. Collection of functions are called library. We have already seen what is function, what is subroutine. Subroutine is also treated as a function. Function is also, it's a function. Function returns a value, subroutine doesn't return a value. This also we have seen it under functions and subroutines as a separate heading in a VB scripting. Now, library is nothing but collection of functions or subroutines. When I say collection, whatever you feel that is required to be reused, then I can put all those under these functions and I can call this function wherever I want. So library allows you to call this function in all the scripts. In any script that you want to use these functions, you can call these functions. What are all the functions you can create? 1. Please note here these functions doesn't have a repository. It is purely a simple function. Right? It doesn't have any binding to the repository. Don't try to think it is like a reusable action. It is not a reusable action. Reusable action, even though it is treated as a function, but that has a repository associated, whereas functions doesn't have a repository. It's a simple VB functions. Libraries are created with an extension .vbs. It is considered as a VBScript library files. QTP accepts following extensions. One, QTP default extension is for a library is .qfl. Q for quick test, F for functional, L for library. Quick test functional library. He also accepts with extension .txt and .vbs. He accepts these files as well. When it comes to VB scripting, it is only VBS for VB scripting. So VBScript doesn't understand text file as a functional library file or QFL as a functional library file. But QTP accepts following extensions. One, default is QFL. QTP default extension is QFL file. And also he accepts .txt files and .vbs files as a library files. Let us now move inside QTP to create a library. How to create a library? I now come to the QTP. I am now get into functional library. So I create a new. I can create new. You can see now functional library. I can create functional library in QTP through this command, new functional library. In this functional library, I now create n number of functions. Without a function, it is not called as a library. So I can create functions. What is my first function? Assume that I want to multiply. So multiplication, I'll say, is my function. Multiply is my function. I want two numbers to be passed as an input, a, B. If I return, I say multiply equals A into B. I now, this function whenever it calls, it multiplies, return the value of the function name itself with A star B. So function 1 created multiply A comma B are the parameters, multiply equals A into B is my event. That is, I'm created a function, I'm not calling this function now. If I call here itself, say for example, multiply, right, message box, multiply A comma B 10 comma 5. I am now calling the function inside the library itself, but we are not supposed to call it inside the library. To ensure your function syntax is right, we are calling it and then testing is done here itself. But in reality, you are not supposed to call. You can see that run command is not enabled under library. If you want to test it, what you can do is you copy this, put it in the test, run it from here, then copy back to the library. Because under library, you cannot call the function. You can only create a function. Collection of functions are nothing but libraries. Now I am calling the function using, so there is a type mismatch. We'll see what it is. So multiply, oh, okay, yep, ply. So multiply, last time also I did the same mistake. Okay, now I execute. So he executes, message box, multiply, he goes inside the function, ends the function, he comes up with an answer 50. Now whichever script calls multiply, now library is set, so I can call that function. So what I need to, this is to ensure your functions are rightly called. Like this, I can create n number of functions. I create one more function. Once I type the function, automatically the syntax gets created. This function, I want unique name. So unique name is my function. What is your parameter for this? There is no parameter. Whenever I call this function, he now returns unique name. So how do I make a unique name? So or I say prefix name. I take an input as prefix. So prefix is my input. Using prefix, I will concatenate, make the unique name. To do the unique name, I say date, time with seconds, I consider it as ununique. Right? So I create unique name, make sure spelling is right, equals prefix, concatenation operator, day of now, it's a time function. Day of now, it's a VB time function. Then month of now. Then year of now. Then hours, minutes, seconds. Up to seconds I am going, because up to seconds I feel that at least 1 second difference will be there if I recall this. So hour of time, now is the time, and minute time now, and seconds second again time. So what I'm trying to do here at line number 6 is, whenever I need a unique name, I call this function. The unique name, I give a prefix, whether you want log, I want a unique name. Whenever I run the script, I want to create a new log. Whenever I run a script, I need to create a result file. So log is my prefix. Wherever I'm calling a log, I create a log as my prefix. Whenever I want to create a result unique file, I create result as my prefix. So whatever prefix I give, along with prefix, I create this file. What is the type of file you need to create? Extension. That also you can give here ext. Ext is my extension. So I concatenate now with dot and concatenate with ext. Ext is again a variable. So prefix is a variable, and day, month, year, hour, minute, second, because under this combination I ensure that the name of the file is always unique, added by dot and extension. If I give an extension, then it is a extension file name. If I don't have an extension, I can stop it with dot. I want to say if dot, whether I have to put or not. If extension is passed as a value, I want to put a dot. If extension is not there, then I want to treat it as a without dot. Then what I can do is if then else condition. If ext is length of ext, length of a string I am measuring. So whenever you are measuring the length, ensure that you use the trim. Trim ensures both left and right leading spaces are removed. If length of is not equal to 0, then you do this command, right? If it is not 0, else I copy the same. Now I remove this extension and dot symbol. So I want only this. If extension is passed with the value, you concatenate with dot. If it is not, you don't pass it with dot. Very simple, another function we have created. So whenever we need a unique name, I can use this. Now unique name, you want to only string. Now it is not only string, it's all character including number. If it is only string, you can pass that as well. You want only string, that becomes a parameter. You create an extension, accordingly you can manage. So for unique string, you cannot make a unique string, but you can make a random string. So what is the length of character you want? What is from where you want to create the random number? What is the range? All those things you can give. We'll see more of this when we get into projects. So I created now functions, two functions. One function is called multiply, another function is called unique name. I want to execute this unique name and then ensure unique name works. I created as a function because unique name returns a value. I copy this, put it under test, execute and then run it. Any changes, you can do it over here itself. So now I am calling the function unique name. As I now type in unique name and then space, you can see now prefix it says, I say log is my prefix, followed by extension, it is a txt file, so I give it as a txt. This is my unique name, I am putting it as a message box. I am calling this function. Since function returns the value, I need to use a parenthesis for calling the parameter. So message box function unique name log space comma txt. Now I execute the script. Now we have created a library. We are checking library is functions are correct. We have not still used the library in our main script. That is what our next job is. So he is now executing. Extension you have given, since it is not equal to 0, he has created. You can see now he has passed with log 2722 whatever dot txt. I say now okay. Now I pass the value without an extension. I only pass log. I don't have extension now. I execute the script. It executes only with a log. Wrong number of arguments. Okay, I give a space. Then empty value. I run this. Because there are two parameters called, I have to assign with two values. So now I call the function. It executes. Now it has executed the else command because the length is 0. So that is why I need length trim option, because if you give a space between these codes, then he will treat it as one length. If I trim it, then it is managed without that. So I say log finish. So this is now log is created without an extension. I can decide how I want to pass more. You can bring more complex as well, all these functions. So I created now, so the function is also working. So library without any change, now I have two functions now. I save this as a library. All libraries are supposed to be a separate folder in our projects. So I go into our online class. This is our project. I am creating, already created libraries are there. So I go to the libraries. Under this library, I create now library 1.qfl, or you can give any name. You say reusable function. I say yes, save it. Now the function is created. It is now not created with extension. I don't know. I'll check. File, save as. So he is created as QFL because that is the default library extension of a QTP. These are all the certification questions. That is why I am emphasizing on extensions, right? All those stuffs, QRS file, etc. And also in certification, all menus, what is the default setting value, what is the default action iteration, all these are important. You need to practice to get that clear understanding. Now reusable function.qfl is created and now ready for use. I now go to the new script. I don't save any script, sorry, not new library, it's a new script. I go to click new test, I create a new test, I close the library. So I close library 1, also I close. Now I into new script. Now this script doesn't have the library attached. To attach the library, I can do it through function, settings, file settings. Under settings, you can see a resource here. This resource will allow me to map library to this test. Libraries are now, I use add, I use say now reusable function library. This library now I am attaching to this. This is the relative path. Now I have attached. If I make it as set as default, now I am making it as default because all my new scripts I want this function to be automatically binded. Please note, already recorded script these functions are not binded. This binding of resources to the library is very important because without that QTP doesn't understand the library is associated for this. Now I'm created library in some other file. In my test now, current test, I want to use those functions here. As I now enter, you can see now the map the resources. Now you can see multiply. I type here multiply space. You can see the function name. I now say 10 comma 100. Put it in the message box. Now it is going to call that function. Now I want to call the unique name message box, or I'll put it into a variable var1 equals unique name. Whenever I want unique name, I call this function. So prefix, I have to give the prefix. If prefix is not there, I can give it as an empty file. Extension I want to give. If I want to give, I give it as a .dat file. I can give any extension, not an issue at all. I now done this message box var1. Now I calling this function now into this test. So first multiply, it multiplies, calls the function, multiplies and executes. You can see 1000 in the message box. Next, I am assigning the value to a unique name. I am now passing the unique name here. How simple it has become. I don't have to call the code again and again. Anybody who wants a unique name, they just have to use this function into their script. This is what functional library is all about. First we created a library. I can create the library in QTP in three ways. One is QFL file, VBS file or .txt file. By default, VBScript supports only VBS file. Once I create the libraries, I can inside the library I can call any number of functions, and if I want to call these functions inside another script, first is I need to associate the library to the function using file, settings, resources. Using this I assign the library inside this. Once I associate the library here, I can call the function inside my test. This is what functional library is